I'll go first then.
No, I'll go first because then I.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, then back. Yeah.
We're professional communicators. It's fine. Go for it.
Hi, my name's Ollie,
Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm James.
and we're the co-founders of Led by Donkeys.
Billboards have been springing up across the country, giant tweets highlighting hypocrisies of Britain's leaders.
Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson is born in New York. His earliest recorded ambition is to become world king.
I love golf, but if I were in the White House, I don't think I'd ever see Turnberry again.
Meanwhile, for 2 decades, Putin's cronies have been allowed to hide their wealth here.
Well, Led by Donkeys started back in early 2019. So we're 4 friends. We all met at the environmental campaign group Greenpeace. You have to cast your mind back to 2019 and what was going on then. Britain was enmeshed in political chaos.
Stop the coup! Stop the coup! Stop the coup!
Brexit seemed to have broken everything. And we felt that the people who had brought Brexit about weren't being held to account for what they had promised the British public. So we were all sitting in a pub and we were passing around on our phone a tweet by David Cameron, the former Prime Minister, who warned of chaos if the Conservatives were booted out of power. And we thought, God, this is just such a perfect tweet to demonstrate the failure of our political class. And we looked out the window and we saw a big billboard site and we thought, that's the shape of a tweet. Why don't we go out there, blow up this tweet to be 18 square metres and paste it up on this billboard? And we found ourselves a few evenings later doing that.
What this group is doing is using analogue tactics to get its unique message across.
The reaction online was crazy. I mean, it just went hyper viral. And our view, I think, was that politics sits downstream of culture. And if we could change the narrative, we could change the politics. So we started doing bigger stunts. We started doing huge land art. We did big projections. Anything that we thought could change the conversation and hold our leaders to account. And we suddenly found that millions and millions of people were seeing these interventions. It was like sort of running a TV channel. You know, we were reaching that many people. And here we are, 5 years later, it's still going.
Led by Donkeys uses a range of different tactical approaches, and I suppose it's a bit like having a toolbox. We use humour or satire sometimes. Sometimes that really works to unpack a story.
This is a story about Matt Hancock. It doesn't involve cockroaches, being buried alive, or inauthentic fits of laughter designed to launder a sullied reputation. Instead, it's about what he did as Health Secretary during the pandemic.
We use deep investigation. We've gone undercover. We spend weeks, sometimes months even, researching a story to peel back the layers and make sure that when we present it, it's understandable.
What kind of pay rise has the Chancellor awarded himself? All that has been kept a closely guarded secret until now.
But we also have a big toolbox of devices for taking our interventions, that we call them, into the public space and making them really visible, really eye-catching. The sweet spot for us is when we're using the right tools that allow us to make an emotional connection with people, because that's really what we're trying to do. That's the business of campaigning. You're trying to get somebody to look at a problem or an issue in a different way and maybe, just maybe, change their mind on it.
Post October the 7th, we wanted to see if there was a meaningful or useful contribution we could make to this moment where a lot of people are trying to understand what's going on in Gaza. A lot of people in the UK think, this is a conflict of 2 sides, it's complicated, we can't really engage with it. But actually, there are ways to cut through that complexity. We started looking at child casualties as a way to do that, because if people disagree about the politics, hopefully we can all agree that children are innocent and children should be protected in conflict. And this installation we did at Bournemouth Beach of the 11,500 children who had been killed at that point in Gaza was one of those installations. We were just trying to communicate one thing, which is the scale of the killing, because it had become so extreme that people could not understand it anymore. And we thought, well, what would it be like if you walked past that many children? What would it feel like?
I've got 2 kids, and just to imagine them being put into that position is just unbearable, really.
So we ended up using secondhand children's clothes and laying them out side by side. in a line that ended up being 6 kilometers long. When you're looking at a 6-kilometer line that you can't even see the end of, you really begin to get a sense of what's happening. It should be something that everybody in this country cares about, because it really is an unprecedented horror that's unfolding.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, live from number 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister has tonight called a general election.
When the UK election was called, we wrote and produced quickly a biopic of Rishi Sunak's time before he was Prime Minister and what he did when he worked in finance. It's been viewed, I think, 4.2 million times on TikTok, 2.5 million times on Twitter. A lot of people have seen it. That's a 10-minute film about someone's career in finance, but it was hyper-viral.
This is the story of Rishi Sunak, a man who lives on a different planet from the rest of us.
What you see is a man from a comfortable background who's made a lot of money, who's married into more money. He's surrounded by money and wealth now and very interested in money. It's been the focus of his life to some extent. And I think that reveals a character, a man not well suited to leading the country through really difficult times.
We were interested to see whether MPs would work for a fake foreign company during the cost of living crisis in the UK, when these MPs had their primary jobs of representing their constituents. And we wanted to know how much money they would ask for.
So we were wondering, do you have a daily rate at the moment?
I do, yes, it's 10,000 sterling.
Some famous names such as Matt Hancock, the former health minister, and Kwasi Kwarteng, the former chancellor of the Exchequer.
Obviously I don't need to earn a king's ransom, but I would do anything less than for about $10,000 a month.
And we thought that was really quite stunning when they should have been representing their constituents. It made front page news and was on TV across the country. There's a question, I guess, about were we doing something that other media weren't doing? I think to a certain extent, yes. The business model for investigative journalism has broken down. It's expensive to do, it's a lot of work, it takes time, and I don't think broadcasters are so keen to fund it.
I think Led by Donkeys has been successful because it's actually properly escaped that bubble of our own side. Our films are viewed many millions of times. They reach lots and lots of people. They get big pickup when they're successful on news websites like the Daily Express, Daily Mail Online, places where you wouldn't typically say that we were politically aligned. So we're definitely communicating those messages, Led by Donkeys messages, to a much broader audience.
We look at social media and think there is a dearth of serious, fact-based journalism there. There's a lot of memes, there's a lot of snark, there's a lot of trolling, but we want to create stuff that's just as compelling and shareable as that content, but really lands a form of guerrilla journalism. We rely on great journalists for some of the stuff that we do. Nevertheless, we think as well that there is a kind of Punch and Judy aspect to election coverage and political coverage. It's very much who's up, who's down, and we think it's important that journalists talk about the issues.
This project has always been about holding those in power to account, but our communication, our message to the British public is don't lose hope. We can do something. We can all change and agitate in our own different, hopefully, creative and inspiring ways. People shouldn't lose hope and they should keep doing what they can to change things.
Thanks for watching. Now hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you think about anything that we covered this week. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Does anyone really call it X? Facebook and Instagram for updates from the show. Links are in the description.